going to try for. So should I put it in like I got TV? I have to go test it.
I'm Diane and you're nice to meet you.
Alex, No, don't get used to that. My daughter at like 6 months said, okay, stay. And I was like, okay. She definitely did that.
Oh, I know what I'm looking for.
Alright, so sorry, then what? Is on her. Is she really on her? I feel like I You are not at all. You have a picture in your mind. Isn't that not even? So cute. I think one other that's what I was thinking. Did you get to meet Tyler?
Yep, we just got
Oh, yeah, please sit down. Welcome. Thank you. And I'm going but if you have any questions, you can always and I'm very sad. Did you meet Tammy? So, but on to the next generation.
All right, well, we'll come to you and then I'll try this one. And I'm happy that this additional text in you I needed to learn something like
Good afternoon. Does this work? Can you hear me? My husband's shaking his head. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the annual meeting of the Friends of Darien Library. My name is Tammy Slode. I am the outgoing president of the Board of Trustees. Usually at the annual meeting, the president gives a brief overview of the current state of the library, but today we're lucky to have a presentation about many great things happening at the library from Kira and other librarians, so I get to focus on saying thank you. Thank you to the Friends of the Library for all that you do. As you know, the library is funded through a public-private partnership with the town of Darien. The town generously covers salaries and operating expenses to make the lights go on and the building function. Donations from the Friends cover programs and content, such as all the books and technology. To hold up our end of the partnership, each year the Friends must raise $700,000 for the annual fund for current year spending, and most of the remaining portion of the Friends budget comes from the endowment, about $400,000 a year. I can report to you that the endowment is in solid shape. Although we made substantial withdrawals over the past few years to cover investments, including a new geothermal system, updated HVAC, and a new Linkso book sorter, to name a few, the market has helped us out over the past year. In addition, I'm happy to tell you that we have just received a generous legacy gift from the estate of Peter M. Dixon. We honor his memory for this thoughtful gift. Beyond the Friends, the other group of people I would like to talk about is the incredible staff of Darien Library. I know many of you are. I think often about what they bring to our town and into our lives. One of my favorite books is This Is Water by David Foster Wallace. It's a tiny little book because it's actually a commencement speech. And when you have a chance, it's a good read. If you will indulge me, I will read the anecdote that he starts with. There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way, who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" Now in this speech, David Foster Wallace goes on to make an argument about choosing to be aware, about having the freedom to think, and to go through life consciously. But I'd like to go back and talk about the fish and about libraries. Because what does the older fish have that the younger ones do not? She has context. She knows she's in the water. So obviously she's aware and thinking. But how did she get this context? Where do we get context? I would suggest that what great libraries do, and what our Darien librarians do superbly, is to provide context for our lives. Let's say you're interested in plants. There are books here, of course, but then there are programs about gardening and a seed bank and lectures on landscape design. Our librarians are people who are continually taking a step back to broaden our view of the world, to ask, so what else? And offer it up to us. They take us along. So if you're interested in gardening, then what about bees and pollinator pathways and climate change? Our librarians give us context. They enable us to do what David Foster Wallace describes as exercising the really important kind of freedom and thinking. So I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of the employees of Darien Library. This past year has been enormously challenging, and everyone at Darien Library has worked incredibly hard to keep our community engaged, virtually when necessary and in person whenever possible, providing a crossroads in town for us to get out and meet, to exchange ideas while giving us new things to think about and explore. We know how hard you work at what you do, and we are grateful for how you push boundaries, for your creativity, and for your constancy in a time during which nothing has been constant. I will now turn the meeting over to Kira Parrott. Kira has finished up her first full year as director and has done a spectacular job. She had big shoes to fill coming in after Alan Gray, and with the able help of Caroline Lopez and Elizabeth Maricola and everyone on the team, she is building on Darien Library's strengths and asking hard questions about what we do and how we do it. Darien Library is in good hands. And finally, I want to say that it has been an enormous honor to serve as a trustee. I am grateful to have had the opportunity. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Tammy, and let's hear it up. So before we talk about the year we just had and all the amazing and challenging things that have transpired, I'd like to invite up Alex Allende, who is the chair of our board's nominating committee.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? I'm Alex Ising. I'm the chair of the nominating committee, and I've had the good fortune of representing the committee this year. And I'm very happy on behalf of the committee to make the presentation of nominees. Joining me this year on the committee were former trustees Randy Heck and Dave Ott, and also serving were current trustees Melissa Noonan and Alina Whitney. I would like to take this time to thank the committee for all of their hard work, as we did have to meet over the summer. It was all over Zoom, but it's in June and July, and that's our summer vacation, so it wasn't, the best time to meet, but everybody was so dedicated, and I'm very grateful. We had 3 retiring board members this year, so we will be replacing them with 3 new. And on behalf of the committee, I'm very pleased to present our 3 nominations, who are nominations for the Board of Trustees this year for the term ending in 2024. Maggie Brown Dumont, Adrian Kelly, and Tyler Kyle. Also nominated for re-election to her 2nd term expiring in 2024 is Elena Whitten. At this time, I would like to ask from a second from the floor. And are there any nominations from the floor? Okay, no. For our friends watching on YouTube, feel free to use the comments function to vote, A or nay. And with that, I would ask all in favor of the slate as presented, please raise your hand. Okay. Anybody opposed? Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. I would like to take this time to congratulate all our new board members. We're so happy to have you. Welcome to the Darien Board of Trustees.
Great, thank you so much, Alex. So officially, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Board of Trustees, Friends of Darien Library here and virtually, and our Darien Library staff. It is my distinct honor to celebrate and offer deepest gratitude on behalf of all of us to 3 stellar trustees who end their terms this evening on our Board of Trustees. They are Nicholas N. Branca, Alexandra Ising, and Tammy Slode. Nick Branca joined the board in 2015, but he and his family have been longtime library users and devoted friends. Nick has served with distinction as the chair of our board's investment committee, where his expertise, insight, and calm, informed advice has been invaluable. He's also served as a key member on the facilities and technology committee, and though this was before my time, I understand that when Nick first joined the board, he was working at least partly in Canada, and somehow still found the time to make it to meetings and be extremely involved, which is incredible. On a more personal note, this past summer, I had the pleasure of getting to know Nick's daughter, Libby, who volunteered her time at the library. And like her dad, she is an incredibly smart, thoughtful human being. A pleasure to spend an afternoon with, which we did during 1894 Day. So I'm hoping that one day she'll follow in her dad's footsteps and maybe become a trustee herself. In the meantime, we thank you, Nick, for your dedication, care, and countless hours of work over the last 6 years. We are so very grateful. If you could please accept this small token of our appreciation and thanks. That's the right one. Thank you so much. Alex Ising her not only an impressive depth of knowledge and creativity, especially around development, but just endless optimism, infectious positivity, and brilliant ideas. Most recently, Alex has served as the chair of our development committee and was the driving force and brains behind so many of our recent successes, most notably 1894 Day. She has also served on our board engagement committee and, as you just saw, chair our nominating committee. Alex is a voracious reader and truly a top-notch reader's advisor, and that is not praise that I give out lightly. I always look forward to asking Alex, what are you reading? What are you loving? Because I know she's going to recommend something amazing that I can then recommend to all of my friends and patrons. Alex, you have impeccable reading taste, and if you ever decide to become a librarian or reader's advisor, please let us know. And we're all going to miss you very, very much. Thank you for everything that you have done for Darien Library over your 2 terms. Please accept this as a gift. In 2014, over her 7 years of service, she has served with distinction on various committees, including finance and budget, development, and of course in the executive committee, first as treasurer and then as president since 2019. Tammy is the epitome of grace and calm under pressure. She is the person who wants standing next to you in challenging times. As many of you know, I've only been in my current role as director for a little over a year, and I honestly cannot imagine navigating the past year without Tammy's gentle advice, her full confidence and trust, not only in me, but in all of our staff, her warmth, her compassion, and her clear-eyed leadership. As just one small example of the type of person Tammy is, she stopped by about a month or 2 ago to drop off a handmade, gorgeous quilt that she had made herself for the Darien Library staff lounge. It features the Darien Library logo and fabric that looks like old card catalogs and other adorable bookish themes. It is gorgeous and also just illustrates the type of compassion and warmth and expression of care that she infuses into her leadership style. I have learned so much from you, Tammy, over the last year, and Darien Library and the Darien community at large have been privileged to have you at the helm of our board. Thank you for everything that you have done to make Darien Library a better, stronger, and more welcoming place during your tenure. Please accept this small token of our appreciation. Said to me earlier this week, in many ways it feels like the end of an era with Tammy, Alex, and Nick cycling off the board. And you three in particular have really helped support and guide the library through some of the most challenging times in recent memory. And you, along with our entire board, our community, our friends, you understand and embrace what makes this place so unique and so important. I'm glad to say that for the most part, gone are the days when people thought public libraries as stuffy buildings that were just filled with books. Each of you here today understands that a community library is, as Eric Kleinenberg says, a palace for the people. It's a testament to and a reflection of a community's most deeply held values, beliefs, and aspirations. It's a place that offers unrestricted, free, and open access to information and knowledge, enlightenment, and a breadth and depth of diverse opinions, perspectives, and viewpoints. It's a space to gather with neighbors in joyful noise, and also a space to contemplate life's complexities in relative quiet. It's a learning environment, but one that sits outside the structures of traditional education. It's a place that doesn't care who you are, what you look like, your education level, socioeconomic status, or what church you belong to. At the public library, at Darien Library, everyone is welcome. I think we're all a little sick of hearing about the unprecedented year we've been through, but there is something kind of remarkable about looking back. As you can see, we're not through it yet, but we've come a long way since March 2020. This is a very, very simplified timeline, but it's been a journey. And like so many organizations and businesses, Darien Library had to pivot and pivot fast in order to figure out how to make our resources accessible and available during the ups and downs, the closings, the reopenings, the changing health protocols. And it hasn't been perfect. I don't know if you could see it, but towards the very end of that timeline, we briefly lifted our mask mandate in the glory days of this past July. So excited and joyful. And then, of course, we got hit with the Delta variant and had to pivot once again. But, you know, I don't see that as a failure. I see it as proof that we are a nimble organization, responsive to the latest science and health guidance, and that we're making the best decisions we can with the best information on hand we have. Always, always with the safety and health and comfort of our patrons and our staff. And so it's been a year of adaptation and evolution, masking and social distancing, and reimagining traditional service models, from contactless holds pickup to home delivery. It's also been a year, I think, for all of us, of just slowing down a little and pausing to embrace and appreciate the simple things, the small things, whether it's increased time at home with our families or an appreciation of the outdoors. For me, one of the small things that brought me so much joy this year was the beauty of our library flower garden, lovingly tended to by staff members Diane Young, Joanne Gabriel, and Pat Tone. Throughout this spring and summer, you can find these little vases like the ones you see there all throughout the library, in little nooks and corners and on tables and at the service desk, and it just never failed to make me smile. It's been a year of coming together after a lot of forced time apart, and of taking to the road, even if that trip was just in the pages of a good book. And as you'll hear about shortly, it was a year that saw the library really take full advantage of our gorgeous outdoor spaces to host a variety of fun community events, something that I have no doubt will continue long after COVID is hopefully a distant memory. But as the great LeVar Burton says, you don't have to take my word for it. So now I turn to our extraordinary staff to tell you about some of their top highlights from the past year. And first up is Pat Tone, Head of Reader Services and members of our Reader Services team. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Kiara. Good evening. My name is Pat Tone. I'm Head of Reader Services, and it's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. As mentioned a few different times, in 2020-21, the library pivoted its services to offer programs and resources online and eventually back in person. The RA department, I have to remember to move, I'm sorry. Okay, in this very room, the whole pickups served as a stage for all the books that we checked out for a whole year, from July 2020 to July 5th, 2021. We checked out 100 to 150 books each day. We shelved them here in the community room, and just to offer easy access to holds with limited contact. And on the other side, in the spring of 2021, Materials Management thought that it would be good if we also added a very deep bin to the community room so that patrons could return their books easily. So they came in this door, returned their books, picked up their holds, and went out the other door. So it was important for us to get books into the hands of our patrons. And then two of our signature programs that served as a bridge of connection to our readers is our Book Matchmaker program. And this program offers personalized recommendations to over 100 patrons who are registered in the program. And this past year, we recommended 436 book titles to our patrons. And the Book Matchmaker Express is an offshoot of Book Matchmaker. And when the library closed in 2020, we were able to serve 190 patrons and 265 recommendations. Another great program service that we offer is our Note to Shelf. Our Note to Shelf is a collaborative creation a compilation of staff reviews and highlights, both current and upcoming new adult titles each month. When the library closed, we actually did a weekly edition of this, and we don't envy anybody, any publishing house that has to do a weekly edition of anything. Okay, with our limited services this past year, we're happy to report our circulation numbers and patron interactions in person and in line were very impressive to us, so relatively speaking. So, everyone who works at the library has a special connection to books, but the reader services staff use our love of literature to develop and nurture relationships with library patrons to assist them with finding their next great read. This is at the heart of what we do at Reader Services. So with my colleagues, we'd like to share a few books that we have enjoyed and a few that we've looked forward to reading this fall season. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Virginia. Would you recommend some books to us?
Hey everyone. My first recommendation is a book that came out this summer, and you've probably heard of it, but it was Fallen by T.J. Newman. Imagine you're a pilot about to board a flight and fly off with, I think, 175 souls on board, and you get the text, your family or the flight, you have to make that decision. It is a thriller of a ride. You won't regret reading it. It's really quick, and I loved it. The other book is not coming out till January, but Marianne and I had the opportunity to interview the author here in September with Library Journal. It's called No Land to Light On. It's by Yara Zagab. It's about a young Syrian couple who get torn apart on the eve of their son's birth date and separated because of a travel ban. It is a heart-wrenching, intimate view of a couple making incomprehensible decisions about their freedom and the freedom of their child. I hope everyone loves it, and thank you so much for having us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Mcguire, a proud member of the Readers Advisory Group, and wanted to share with you a book that I read this summer that I think it was kind of a sleeper. It is a story called Mary Jane by Jessica Blau. Thumbs up on it. Appreciate that. It's a delightful story that takes place in 1970 Baltimore. And Mary Jane is an only child of a very conservative family. And she has an opportunity to work as a nanny for a doctor. Mom's very excited about that. You know, a doctor, he's got to be very respectable. Of course she could do this. So anyway, Mary Jane starts her first day. She goes over to the home. Very respectable exterior. She walks inside. It's a little chaotic. It is literally and figuratively a hot mess inside the home. But she is 14 years old, eyes big as saucers, and she immediately bonds with her charge. But one thing, unbeknownst to Mary Jane's mom, is the doctor happens to be a psychiatrist. And he has decided that this summer he's going to bring one of his patients into the home for therapy, who happens to be a famous rock and roll star, as well as his movie star wife. So you've got Mary Jane, a 14-year-old who lives in this very conservative, traditional house at night and comes over and works in for a family that literally has exposed her to sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's a great coming-of-age story. You root for Mary Jane as she is, navigating these two worlds, trying to figure out what she's going to take from one as she grows up. So I cannot recommend it enough. Another title that just came out last week that's getting a tremendous amount of momentum, especially here at the library, is Amor Towles' upcoming book, The Lincoln Highway. As we all know, he is the author of A Gentleman of Moscow and Rules of Civility. The book opens, I believe, with a 18-year-old who's just served 18 months in a correctional facility and for involuntary manslaughter. The warden of the prison, or the detention facility I should call it, drives him back to his home in Nebraska, where he's greeted, I believe, only by his 8-year-old brother. I'm not sure where mom and dad are. But knowing Amor Towles' beautiful writing, the details, the imagery that he has, and his character development, I cannot wait to find out what Emmett Wilson, how his journey is, especially when he meets up with two of the gentlemen that he was in detention with. So it'll be a great journey. So I recommend that. Thanks so much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Bonan, and I am part of the Readers Advisory Services. The first book I'd like to talk about is The Paris Library by Janet Scaslin Charles. This book has everything I love about books. It is a dual timeline. It's historical fiction. It's based on real people and real events. And it takes place in Paris, so you can't go wrong. The book is about the librarians who manned the American Library in Paris during World War II, and who were very instrumental in helping the resistance and also in delivering books to their Jewish patrons who were not allowed to use the library. I'd like to read a quote that the author said in an interview, and I think it's very apt for this meeting. My novel is a love letter to libraries and librarians, reminding us that in the digital age, our libraries, our third space, our sanctuary, our source of fact in a fake news world, are more vital than ever. And more than ever, they are under attack. The Paris Library is a reminder that we must protect and appreciate what we have. And the book I'm looking forward to doesn't come out until January, but it's by one of my very favorite authors, Isabelle Allende. I think I have read pretty much everything she's written, fiction and nonfiction, YA and not. She's just a lovely, lovely writer if you haven't read anything about her, by her. Violetta lives to be 100, and it takes place in an unnamed country in South America, and it follows her life through all sorts of disasters, the Spanish flu, the Great Depression where her family lost everything, and I'm so looking forward to it because Allende's characters are so rich and so wonderful that I can't wait to read it. Hope you do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia, Jill, and Barbara. And my two favorites, The Personal Librarian by Marie Benedict and Victoria Christopher Murray. This is a fascinating historical fiction book about the enormously successful Bella DaCosta Green, who became J.P. Morgan's personal librarian. She was responsible for curating, conserving, and negotiating acquisitions of art, books, and rare manuscripts. Green harbored a painful secret and carried it with enormous strength throughout her career. And it's really very worthwhile reading. And the one that I'm looking forward to that has just recently come out is The Harlem Shuffle by Colin Whitehead. From the two-time Pulitzer Prize winner of The Underground Railroad and The Nickel Boys, Harlem Shuffle's ingenious story plays out in a beautifully recreated New York City of the early 1960s. It's a social novel about race and power, and ultimately a love letter to Harlem. Okay, and a few of my colleagues who are in the audience, Ann McCarty and Barbara Blake, have recommended these books. The Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. He's the author of All the Light We Cannot See. And Ann is looking forward to Matrix by Lauren Ruff. Barbara Blake has read My Sweet Girl by Amanda Jayatisa, and is looking forward to reading A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins, the author of The Girl on the Train. And then two other book recommendations are The Girl in the Mirror by Rose Carlisle and Mrs. March by Virginia Fito. So with that, I would just like to end with a quote that I read in the New York Times Book Review during COVID that I think kind of sums up what our department is about. Books offer us the chance to escape, and they force us to engage. Books are among the great empathy builders, bridging gaps that divide us geographically, politically, philosophically, and demographically. At a time when many people feel alone, books bring us together. Thank you for your time and attention. We have a few of these titles at the welcome desk if you'd like to check them out, and all the others would be more than happy to put you on hold. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pat, and members of RA. Now I'd like to invite up our Head of Knowledge and Learning Services, Brittany Netherton, to talk about KLS.
Thanks, Kira. Can everyone hear me okay? Wonderful. So I'm going to echo some of the sentiments that you've already heard. Last year was a period of near constant change. And so I want to start off by acknowledging the Knowledge and Learning Services staff and staff from throughout the library who helped through those changes, especially the ones that impacted the second level and the mezzanine, whether it was managing time limits, keeping patrons safe as they use our spaces, or rearranging our furniture and 15,000 of our books to facilitate patron use. We kept one goal in mind: to be as helpful to our patrons as possible. So the reference desk has always been a place where patrons can come to ask questions related to careers, health, law, and any other topics related to their basic well-being. But last year we fielded a, forgive me, unprecedented number of those questions. The pandemic and its domino effect on jobs, housing, accessibility, and mental health catapulted us into a bit of uncharted territory. It's always been our job to answer as many questions as possible and then refer folks to other organizations for more involved assistance. But with many of those other organizations closed over the past year, KLS was called on to learn several different governmental websites and processes and how they worked in order to help patrons with things that we really hadn't had to help them with before. We spent a good portion of the year learning how the unemployment website worked and helping patrons log in each week to file. And if you're at all familiar with that website or that process, you know that it is incredibly complicated and not very user-friendly. We often found ourselves even having to reach out to public officials on behalf of our patrons to try to get them more detailed help than we could provide at the desk. Several patrons throughout the year would excitedly come in to tell us that they had finally found a job and they wouldn't be visiting us as often. And as sad as we were to not be able to see them as frequently, we're always so happy to celebrate their hard work and their success. We also learned a lot about the initial vaccine registration system, which, if you'll recall, was also very complicated, and helped ensure that our most at-risk patrons in the community were successfully getting their shots scheduled. And finally, we stayed up to date on news related to the stimulus packages and payouts in order to answer questions from our patrons who were understandably very anxious about getting those payments and also anxious about what was going to happen potentially down the line as a result of getting those payments. A couple of statistics that we're most proud of. In spring of 2020, we expanded our e-magazine collection by more than 3,500 titles, and as you can see, it was money well spent. We had a 46% increase over the previous fiscal year and 147% increase over the year before that. And just in case you're curious, the New Yorker is the magazine of choice here in Darien with 1,018 circulations last year. Our tax aid program was also a huge success despite having fewer face-to-face opportunities. Our AARP partners prepared 347 returns in person, 372 online, and got our patrons approximately $2.2 million in refunds. As always, we are so appreciative of this program and partnership and of our volunteers that help make it possible. And to close, I'd like to share a few anecdotes that the KLS staff submitted as their favorite interactions of the year. Our Ancestry.com subscription saw an 81% increase in use as Darien residents began working on genealogical and local history projects, and Blanche Parker was instrumental in assisting with that type of research. From October 2020 to January 2021, she did microfilm research on topics such as the debutante ball, the Ziegler estate sale, the Oxridge fire of 1957, and the Darien football team in 1956 and 1957. And a fun fact about them is they went undefeated both years but did not win the state title, though 2 of the players did make the all-state team. And Blanche is thanked for her incredible work in the acknowledgement of this book, which is just one of many that she helped on this year. The library's knitting group, which met twice weekly during the past year, got together via Zoom on Thanksgiving so members of the group wouldn't be alone for the holiday, which is still one of my favorite stories. And Maria assisted a patron at the help desk with Microsoft Word as he was completing a novel he'd been working on for several years. He wanted to publish it himself through Amazon, but they have really stringent publication formatting standards. So Maria and his patron worked on it for 2 weeks until one day he came in to tell her that he was now a self-published author and his lifelong goal had been accomplished. And with that, I am finished.
Thank you, Brittany. Oh my gosh, just that Thanksgiving, that just got me right in my heart. And now I'd like to invite up our Assistant Director of Public Services, Elizabeth Maricola, who's going to introduce some information about our youth services team.
Not Krishna Grady, Head of Youth Services, but Krishna unfortunately can't be with us here tonight, so I am very, very, very pleased to be able to introduce some members of our wonderful Youth Services team who are going to talk to you about all the amazing things that happened this year. Last year, Krishna asked her staff to use one word and use that word every single day and try and find joy in the work that they were doing at Darien Library. In a year where joy was sometimes hard to find, it was indeed sometimes a challenge. However, Youth Services rose to that challenge. Whether it was creating a program, filming a book talk, curating a subscription box, or seeing babies splash their hand in our fountain in the spring, or children playing hopscotch on the rug in the children's library, Youth Services rose to the challenge and found joy in 2020 and 2021. Krishna would like to give you insight into the teamwork and joy that Youth Services works to cultivate at Darien Library in the following slides. So opening back up to the public meant an explosion in the circulation of physical materials, which was wonderful because I think our books were sad sitting on the shelves all by themselves while we were closed. So after months of boosting our downloadable content, we were happily surprised to have over 500 circulations of our 2020 summer reading materials. These were the top circulating kids titles. If you are at all familiar with children's books, you know that a lot of these are not new. So our children here at Darien are still reaching for their forever favorites. And these are the top circulating teen titles. With that, I would like to turn this presentation over to the very capable hands of Samantha Cardoni, who is the Assistant Head of Children's Services and our Children's Program Coordinator. Samantha,
Thank you, Elizabeth. We're going to start off by talking about some of the fabulous author events that we hosted virtually this past year. Former Darien resident Cameron Kelly Rosenblum joined our teen librarian, Mia Orabona, the Depot, and an incredible panel of teens in an open and honest discussion about mental health as related to her transformative novel, The Stepping Off Place. We can hardly keep the books of New York Times best-selling author Stuart Gibbs on the shelf in the Children's Library. Over 150 attendees clamored to hear the details about Spy School Revolution, the latest release in Stuart's thrilling series about a kid's spy. And last but certainly not least, Darien resident Carrie Stein is a writer, actress, and comedian who took inspiration from her own childhood in her latest book, and she brought the first chapter of her funny and heartwarming middle grade novel, Horse Girl, to life with us this past spring. The youth services team was faced with the same challenge that awaited all librarians upon reopening during COVID-19, how to make virtual and hybrid programming as fresh and exciting as our in-person programming. We pivoted some of our beloved in-person programs to virtual ones, and programs that we offered in person found new life in a virtual capacity. Families could cook together in their own kitchens during our Food Explorers programs as they created delicious recipes with a registered dietitian. Teens joined us for Snap and Share, where they pick up a bag of snacks at the library before joining us for a virtual chat about their favorite books and movies. Arts and crafts are often the bread and butter of children's programming. One of the most successful during the pandemic has been our Little Artist series. This bi-weekly program provides the art materials for a project that preschoolers will complete over Zoom with the talented Miss Maria. In total, we offered 278 programs for children and 60 programs for teens, mostly through Zoom, often with kits that families could pick up from the library to engage more intentionally despite the screen between us. We started offering grab-and-go crafts last July with the intention of providing some non-screen activities. They turned out to be a hit with the families in town, and the youth services team has created over 5,000 bags to date, including our latest creation, which is a pop-up quiz. That being said, I turn it over to our early literacy and outreach coordinator, Erica Walston.
So this year, we created our own Darien Children's Library Instagram account. We were hoping to extend what makes the Children's Library so great in a different way through social media, hoping to be one of the good things about social media and not one of the bad things. So the things that we posted included storytime rhymes and songs, Instagram. How many people are on Instagram? Okay. I don't have to find everything. So Instagram Reels, I did craft Reels, and we focused on the different equity, diversity, and inclusion campaigns. So we did things for Women's History Month, things for Black History Month, and those craft reels were really popular. We got over 5,000 hits on one of our videos, and check it out. Oh yeah, so here's more of, for Women's History Month, we focused on different women, and that was the first photo that we posted on Instagram. That was our Halloween costume for last year. It was from the big Who Was series. If anyone who knows the Who Was series. So, yeah, they have big heads on them. All right, and then just looking forward, we have relaunched our 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program, which is a fun program to encourage adults and children to read together and helps introduce children to as much vocabulary as possible before they enter kindergarten. Children who read more before they get to kindergarten often have a higher success rate. And just to show you a couple of things, when people sign up, they get this awesome growth chart, which has book suggestions as well as developmental milestones for all the different ages. And then to keep them motivated, because I know people tend to lag, we have these awesome tokens, so they can get that. So no one's hit 500 yet, but hopefully our Early Literacy Festival next weekend will get lots and lots of people signed up. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, Samantha, and Erica. Next, I'd like to invite up our Head of User Experience and Technology, Amanda Goodman. Oh, sorry. Do you want me? I'm sorry, Amanda. We'll have Amanda back in just one moment. I grabbed Elizabeth. Who's back up here to talk about some of our favorite adult programs from the past year. Thank you.
everyone. I'm also not Pat Sherry, the head of adult programming at Darien Library. But she can't be here tonight either, and I'm very, very pleased to speak on behalf of the adult programming department. So it was another year of extraordinary program brought to Darien Library by our adult programming department. Pat Sherry leads a capable creative team which consists of Amanda DeMeo, Joanne Gabriel, Marianne Paternity, Kathleen Millard, and Jane Fraser. I'm staring at them out the door right now, so hello guys. Together, they took advantage of the wonders of Zoom for another year to bring big-name authors and exciting programs to Darien. We were all thrilled to return to in-person programs in the spring in the library courtyard, and I'm just going to talk about a few of our favorite programs of the year. So, first up, we had two of the biggest names in the book world. I mean, Harlan Coben and John Grisham are top-tier authors, and we were so pleased to co-sponsor a conversation between the two of them with our friends at Barrett Bookstore. We had 615 virtual attendees at that program. In February, the weather outside was quite frightful, but 558 people gathered remotely to watch gardening experts Paige Dickey and Margaret Roach discuss garden design, again with the help of our friends at Barrett Bookstore. Also in February, nearly 200 people watched Julie Peters, Charles Hilton, and Fiona Leonard discuss local trends in Darien in architecture, interior design, and real estate. Skipping ahead to the month of June. So June saw the fruition of a long-held dream of the adult programming department to host a cocktail party in the courtyard for free for everyone. Those who attended celebrated the beginning of the summer, and though the rest of the summer didn't quite go the way we had hoped it had, unprecedented, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we had a wonderful time saying hello to the faces we were able to see at the first two Cocktails in the Courtyard events. Over 200 people on that day in June enjoyed drinks in the courtyard, and the canned cocktails for the event were generously provided by the Two Roads Brewing Company. And here we have some friendly and familiar faces at the Cocktails in the Courtyard event in June. From my left is Amanda DeMeo, our own Pat Sherry, Marianne Paternity, someone else, and Kira Parrott. Hopping back in time to November, we presented Feeding the Family, a Culinary Conversation. This was a lively virtual conversation with three culinary legends, Melissa Clark, Jacques Pepin, and Deb Perlman. This was again with our friends at Barrett Bookstore, and we had over 820 attendees from countries around the world at this cookbook program. It's by far the biggest event we've ever, the biggest adult programming event we've ever done. So that was very, very exciting, and something that we would not have been able to do if it wasn't for the pandemic teaching us about Zoom. So while the year was unprecedented, not all of the lessons we learned were bad ones. Some of them were really great. And last but not least, we closed a small event that is close to our hearts, and not because it featured alcohol, but because it was our first in-person event since March of 2020. So this was a beer tasting that we hosted in the courtyard with Em Souter, who is an expert who demystified the many beer styles with a guided tasting for a very small group of our patrons. But it was the first time we had people in person at the library again in adult programming, and it was a really big deal and a hopeful sign of what we think is going to come. So though none of them are in the room right now because they are preparing for the event that's happening after we're all done talking, I would like us to all give a big round of applause to the adult programming.
And now I actually do invite up Amanda Goodman, our head of user experience and technology.
Okay, so today I'll be looking at a year in review of the library's Publicity. But first, I also want to thank our tech support today, Greg Gates and Karen Alfini, who are on the technology side of our department. So to kick off the year in July 2020, we received a gorgeous write-up and shout-out from author Tessa Wiegert and her family and Darien neighbors. This is a monthly publication delivered for free to households in Darien. A quote from the article on reasons why they are moving to Darien says, "The ultimate deciding factor, the Darien Library. Grant had come to the area alone to start his job while the kids finished school in Chicago, so he saw Darien first, sending pictures to his wife, including some in the library. It felt like Disney World to me. I just couldn't get over how incredible it was and how much they were making available to the community. We spend so much time there," said Tessa. Followed up in August by an article in Bloomberg when the power went out after the tropical storm that came through. As you may recall, people came to the library to look for power and Wi-Fi so they could resume their connections with the world. We had business folks, parents charging their phones while their child played, friends meeting up, and students hitting the books. This doesn't cover all the groups in the library, but certainly the #1 spot in town. Kira's arrival brought a lot of interest to the library when she arrived last September. She had worked at a national level publications overseeing hundreds of book reviewers, who I consider to be some of the best tastemakers in the country, as reviews are always coming up when I'm reading book reviews online. Therefore, Kira's arrival brought attention from all over when she returned home to us and got her driver's license. And after a flurry of articles about her arrival, Kira was personally brought into the homes of thousands of Darienites through an editorial for Darien Neighbors magazine in January. Her words were delivered to around 45% of the households. And of course, the biggest news for us on a national level is that we were designated as a 5-star library by Library Journal. This was the 13th year of appearing on the list, which is also the length of how long the list has been around. So have you been enjoying all those gorgeous designs on social media, in our emails, digital signs, etc.? That do the work of Kristin Hines. She joined us as the library marketer in December after a competitive national search. So let's look over some of her designs and their impact. So Kristin has a heart for staying current on design trends that resonate with people and draw the viewer in. What you're seeing here is an example of cottagecore. If you were baking, cooking, or trying your hand at making things yourself last year, you were participating in the cottagecore aesthetic. For fandom.com, cottagecore is a, quote, romanticized interpretation of Western agricultural life and is centered on ideas of simple living and harmony with nature. Themes associated with cottagecore include self-sufficiency, baking, and caring for people. So why is it helpful to stay on design trends? This particular tweet not only caught the author's attention, but was also viewed 4,578 times, and 36 people clicked on the tweet for more details. This example is actually from July 20th, which is after the end of this fiscal year we're talking about, but it's another example of Kristin's gorgeous work. This tweet was reshared by the author and was viewed 2,855 times and had 45 engagements. So what does this mean? One of our key social media audiences is authors and publishers. By strengthening these relationships, we can attract more notable authors as the publishers and agents are more exposed to the readers of this community. Kristin's work here is then transformational, and taking a simple tweet linking to a book in our catalog into a powerful vehicle for bringing the world to Darien. Kristin's special creative touches also show up in our email newsletters for adults. The style here is warm and invites people to join us, in this case, at the chef's table in her home kitchen. Virtual events give patrons access to a more intimate conversations, like they're sitting at the kitchen island while their dear friend, a famous chef, is making them dinner, is showing them all their secrets. This highlight here is also part of a new email marketing strategy that combines similarly themed adult programs into single topic emails throughout the month. While this event was part of an email and cooking programs, we've also had themed emails on gardening, history, career growth, and genealogy. We're appealing to the heart of people with these emails and are bringing them a variety of programs and resources that appeal to their taste within this single email. Switching over to Twitter, what you're seeing here is an image we posted in late December for the 6th most popular book read in Darien of last year. Eric Larson, the author, caught sight of this tweet and reshared it. It was viewed 7,264 times and had 71 engagements. Our normal tweets see nowhere near this kind of traffic. And if you've been around for a while, you may remember when Emma Straub, when she visited the library during her first book tour. Emma certainly did, as she wrote, "The Darien Library put out an actual red carpet for me when I visited for my first novel. That is why I love them most." When we celebrate what the community reads and loves, authors respond. These 9,514 views, we couldn't have gotten that on our own, but Emma Straub's star power shared Darien with her nearly 50,000 followers on Twitter. Netflix had a fiery hit with their Bridgerton series based upon the romance books by Julia Quinn. The library seized the moment and began to promote the romance collection even more, just in time for the snowy nights of February. Aside from this delightful video featuring Krishna and Elizabeth, Elizabeth also had an article appear in the Darien Times with other read-alikes for Bridgerton fans. And if you're interested, season 2 has been announced, but not the exact day for next year. So here on the left is the article that ran in the Darien Times, and on the right is the Bridgerton book list that we were directing people to for the actual Bridgerton series. Midway through the year, we also received notice that the library had won 2 Publicity awards from the Connecticut Library Association. The first was Connecticut Community, the brainchild of Krishna. These 11 short video tutorials were released while the library building was closed last year. The purpose of the series was, quote, to help us stay connected during these times, Darien Library presents Connecticut Community. Fun videos made by you and your neighbors, end quote. So 2 of the cooking videos were made by local caterers, and another 2 were created by children. So we were able to give people an opportunity to show off their talents here within the local community. The second publicity board was for my Women's History Month suffrage display that was on Main Street in March 2020. It got seen for about 2 weeks. But however, it took the Designer's Award for the state. Our fastest growing social media platform is YouTube. Since the pandemic began, we have released 217 videos. This means that about 28% of the videos that we've posted since 2008 were released in the last 19 months. A special note, Darien Library, which is within a community of about 21,700 people, has more YouTube followers than the public library systems of Chicago, Houston, Seattle, and Washington, D.C. And our biggest YouTube hit of all time is from James Rickards with 30,795 views as of today. This was made possible because the author repeatedly shared the link on his own social media. New York Public Library has 11 times more followers than us, but in the month after posting this video, we had over 11,000 more views than NYPL between January and March. The new video release season has just begun, so let's see what happens in the year ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And now I invite up our Assistant Director of Operations, Caroline Lopez.
Hello, I'm Caroline Lopez. I'm going to tell you about some of the capital projects that the Friends have invested in this year. So first up, we have the boiler replacement project, and there it is. The boiler was a continuation of a major upgrade to our entire heating and cooling infrastructure that began with the conversion of our geothermal system in 2019. Then we replaced the HVAC units on the upper levels that were at the end of their useful life. So onto the boiler. We were previously using a heat pump as a boiler along with the old system. When we converted the geothermal system, we decided to replace the boiler with a traditional gas boiler, which is the most efficient way to get more heat into our lovely building with very high ceilings. The final phase will be to replace the lower level HVAC units, which is currently planned to be done individually on an as-needed basis. We are building a new space for staff at our lower level. It was previously unfinished storage space. The former staff lounge was the small meeting room that is next to the large conference room on the mezzanine, if you've been up there. So the new staff lounge will have a kitchen that can be used for both staff and program prep, as well as a break area, nursing room, and a restroom. We've converted the former staff lounge to a new meeting room that is now available to rent along with our other meeting rooms. Fundraising events is still me. So I'm going to tell you, thanks to the Friends of the Library, this was our most successful fundraising year ever. We exceeded the amount raised in any other year, in large part due to 2 of our now annual events. So the novelty was originally planned to be in person in March of 2020, but things happened. So we adapted and ran a virtual event last October. We had 163 virtual attendees who all enjoyed boxed lunches by Brown & Co. And we did our David Harvey Jewelers raffle as always. And it was fascinating to hear Laura Prescott speak about the book and her process as a writer. And we even got a glimpse into her writing studio in the background. So while I have you here, the next novelty is just 10 days away. Wednesday, October 27th, we will have Britt Bennett in person at Weburn, who wrote The Vanishing Half. We're almost sold out, but I do have a few more tickets available. See me after if you'd like to join us. And then finally, 1894 Day. Our Library Giving Day continues to grow every year. Each year, it has surpassed the goal, including this past year where the goal was $127,000 in a day, and we raised over $190,000. The best part for us, in addition to getting to pick out
giveaways every year is hearing all of the wonderful things that the donors say about the library and the staff. And we were really glad to be able to see everyone in person this year in the courtyard. So on behalf of our fundraising team, thank you all again for your generosity and support.
Thank you so much, Caroline. So what's next? Well, we will continue to deepen our commitment to community building by forming partnerships with other organizations and nonprofits who have a common mission. So two just very recent examples of such partnerships is one with Wallace, which is an organization that supports and trains and creates job opportunities for adults with disabilities. As you may have seen when you were walking into the community room, our cafe is undergoing a bit of a transformation. It's the newly imagined cafe at Darien Library, and it is going to be run and staffed by Wallace clients, providing job opportunities to adults in the Wallace program and also offering delicious coffee and food to visitors of Darien Library and staff. Stay tuned, the cafe should be up and running sometime in the next couple of weeks. I'm also proud to say that Darien Library is one of the founding members of Darien United, which is a newly formed grassroots coalition of local organizations, businesses, and residents committed to creating and furthering a welcoming, inclusive Darien that respects and encourages contributions from all people through events and resources celebrating a diverse range of human experience. More to come on that. I believe Darien United members will be speaking at the Board of Selectmen on the 25th if you'd like to hear more. Looking a further bit out, we are obviously focused on building back and building stronger in a post-COVID, knock on wood, environment over the next few years. This chart here shows our door traffic from pre-pandemic times all the way back in January of 2019 through the end of August 2021. So, we've obviously got a ways to go, but we will get there, I have no doubt, and better than ever. We have so many amazing events on the horizon, but I just wanted to throw a plug in for 3 that are happening just next week. As the Children's Library mentioned, they are hosting an early literacy festival next Sunday, which is all focused on the power of reading, singing, and playing, and talking with children under 5, and how very important those activities are for building their brains and getting them ready for kindergarten and beyond. As Caroline just mentioned, there are a few tickets left for our annual novelty, which is coming up. And next Thursday evening, we're doing a book club under the stars in partnership with both the Nature Center and Darien Land Trust. So just a few little things that are coming up soon. Now, before we wrap up and enjoy some wine and food, I would just like to take a moment to thank our entire staff. We do ask that our staff members attend this annual meeting every year, not only because it's a fun and good opportunity for members of our board and our friends at the library to spend a bit of quality time with our amazing staff members, but also because it's important to publicly acknowledge their work and achievements. I would like to personally thank every single member of Darien Library staff for all of the ways, big and small, visible and also often invisible, that you go above and beyond for the patrons who use Darien Library and for each other. We know it's been a really trying year, and there's just no way we all would have made it through if not for extending each other the kind of kindness and compassion and grace that I see happen here on a daily basis. So thank you so much. And now, each and every one of you, in my book, deserve an award and are award winners. And this year, I'm also going to highlight 3 librarians in particular who received those awards from the Connecticut Library Association. And Amanda mentioned a little bit about that. They are Mia Orabona, Krishna Grady, and Amanda Goodman. Mia got her award for her leadership in teen services, Krishna for her creativity on the Connected Community Initiative, and Amanda Goodman, both for her design work on Connected Community and for the Women's History Month display. Kudos, congratulations to all. And finally, I just thank all of you, all of our friends, for your generosity and support. You truly are the fuel that powers the creativity, the innovation, and the community building that you've heard about this evening. Thank you so very, very much. Now I invite everyone except for our trustees to enjoy some wine and refreshments out there. Trustees, if I can ask you to just gather up here at the front for some board business very briefly. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, that